You have to understand something deep in your soul. You are not defined by your past, not by what your family has been through, not by the struggles or limitations that have been carried forward like a heavy chain around your neck. You are here for a reason. There's something inside you that knows you were born for more, that knows your family's story doesn't have to be the same story your children tell. I want you to feel that right now. Breathe it in. Let it burn inside you that the power to change everything is already in your hands. But here's the catch: change doesn't happen without pain. Changing your family's story isn't some feel-good idea, it's a mission. It's deciding to face the discomfort, to push past the doubt, and to sacrifice whatever it takes to elevate the standard for everyone that comes after you. Let's be real for a second. Every family has its struggles. Maybe it's been poverty, maybe it's addiction, maybe it's broken relationships. I don't know what it is for you, but I do know this: you can be the one to break that chain. It takes one person, one decision, one unshakable commitment to say no more. This ends with me. Do you know what happens when you make that decision? You change not just your life, but the lives of generations to come. You're not just changing a story, you're changing the belief systems that have kept your family stuck. If you keep telling yourself the same old story, you'll keep living the same old life. But when you decide to change that story, you give your family permission to dream bigger, to rise higher, and to live freer. But here's the thing: it's not enough to just talk about it. Talk is cheap. You've got to live it, breathe it, and bleed for it if necessary. Your family needs an example, not just another excuse. You need to be the proof that it's possible. When you walk the path, when you show them what's possible, you inspire others to do the same. Your actions will echo down through time, lighting the way for those who come after you. So I challenge you right now: be the one. Be the one to rewrite your family's story, to change your family's destiny. It starts today. It starts with you, and it starts with a decision that will shake the foundation of what you thought was possible. Be the one who stands up. Be the one who breaks through. Be the one who changes everything. Your family deserves it. Your future deserves it. And most importantly, you deserve it. The past is a powerful thing. It shapes us, molds us, and often leaves its mark on the deepest parts of who we are. It can become like a weight, a heavy burden carried forward through the years, pulling us back to familiar places, familiar patterns, and familiar limitations. For many of us, it's easy to believe that we are prisoners of that past, that we are somehow doomed to repeat the mistakes, struggles, and hardships of those who came before us. But that's not the truth, not even close. The past may have shaped you, but it does not own you. It's not a life sentence. It's a lesson, a teacher, a collection of experiences that brought you to this exact moment. And here's the thing: at this moment, you are more powerful than ever before. Because no matter what happened back then, you get to decide the standards you will live by today. This is the key that so many people overlook. You have the power to set new standards right now in this very moment. You can decide to be something more than the struggles, disappointments, and failures that have haunted your family. It starts with a choice. And that choice is not about who you've been or where you've come from. It's about who you want to become. When you raise your standards, you begin to change everything. It's like a ripple effect that spreads through your life. But here's the catch: raising your standards isn't some fluffy, feel-good phrase. It's about making the kind of deep, internal commitment that will not let you settle for anything less than your best. It means saying, I don't care what happened yesterday. I don't care what limitations I've been told I have. Today, I am setting a new standard for myself and for my family. You see, the past is only as powerful as the meaning you assign to it. If you keep looking back and letting it define you, you'll keep getting pulled back into the same patterns, the same beliefs, the same cycles. But when you decide to set new standards, you break free from that cycle. You start to shift your focus away from what went wrong to what can go right. And that's when everything changes. Think about it: if you were to live according to the same standards that held your parents, your grandparents, or your great-grandparents back, where would you end up? You would end up exactly where they did. But when you decide, really decide, to set a new level for yourself, you open up possibilities that weren't there before. You show your children, your siblings, your entire family what's possible. You have the power to be the one who redefines what's possible for your family. You have the power to set new standards, to break through barriers, to say this is where it changes. And every time you hold yourself to that higher standard, you're not just changing your own life, you're changing the trajectory of your family's legacy. The beautiful thing about standards is that they don't care about where you started. They don't care about how many times you've been knocked down, how many times you failed, or how many times you failed, or how many times you were told you weren't good enough. The only thing that matters is what you're willing to demand of yourself today, right now. You might think it's too late, that the past has already written too much of your story. But let me tell you something powerful, the story doesn't end there. It's not over until you decide it's over. And if you're willing to set a new standard for yourself today, if you're willing to rise above the past and demand more from yourself than you ever have before, then the story is just beginning. So, what are you willing to tolerate? What are you willing to accept for yourself and for those you love? Because your life, your future, and the future of your family are going to be shaped by what you decide you're no longer willing to tolerate. It's that simple, but it's not easy. It's a decision you have to make every day. You have to set that bar high and refuse to lower it, no matter how tired you are, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how many times you stumble. Your past does not define you. Your past is a chapter, not the entire book. Today, you get to decide the standards that will shape your life moving forward. So decide to set them high, to set them strong, to set them in a way that when your family looks back, they'll say, that was the moment everything changed. And that moment, my friend, can start right now. Generational chains can be insidious, wrapping themselves around families, sometimes for centuries. They're not always visible, yet they show up in patterns and behaviors and beliefs that get passed down, often without anyone realizing it. They're the stories we hear growing up that's just how it is in our family, or we've never been the lucky ones. They're the struggles that repeat from one generation to the next, whether it's financial hardship, broken relationships, addiction, or self-doubt. But here's the thing, these chains aren't unbreakable. In fact, they can be shattered in an instant. It doesn't take years of effort or waiting for some magical moment to arrive. It takes a single powerful choice, a moment where someone finally decides, this ends with me. Imagine that moment. It's a choice made not just with your mind, but with your entire being. It's when you reach a point where you can't take it anymore, when you refuse to let the pain of the past continue to dictate the future. You look at the patterns that have been passed down, the fears, the limitations, the cycles of scarcity or pain, and you decide that even if no one else could break free, you will. It doesn't matter how deeply rooted those chains are, they are no match for a mind made up. Because here's the truth, change is not about waiting for some external event to come along and save you. It's not about hoping that someday things will be different. It's about stepping into the power that's already within you right here, right now, and making a decision that is so firm, so absolute, that there is no turning back. When you make that choice, everything starts to shift. It's like setting off a domino effect that doesn't just change your life, but the lives of those who come after you. Think about that for a moment. Your choice today has the power to change the destiny of not just your own life, but your children, your grandchildren, and even generations you may never meet. That's how powerful a single decision can be. But here's the part most people miss: breaking those chains isn't easy. It will demand more of you than you ever thought possible. There will be moments when it feels like you're fighting against an invisible force that's trying to pull you back into old patterns, into the comfort of what's familiar. And that's exactly when you have to dig your heels in and remind yourself why you're doing this. You have to remember that it's not just about you, it's about everyone who comes after you. It's about creating a legacy that will last far beyond your own lifetime. There will be times when you'll be tempted to give in, to let the old stories creep back into your mind. But in those moments, remember this: one choice can change everything. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need to know all the answers. You just need the courage to take that first step, to break away from what's been holding you back, and to refuse to let those old chains define your future. It's easy to look at your family's history and feel overwhelmed, to feel like the weight of it all is too much. But the beautiful thing about change is that it's not about where you've been, it's about where you're going. Every chain that's ever held anyone back started with a story, a belief that things couldn't be different. But the moment someone decides to question that belief, to challenge it, to replace it with something new, that's when the chains start to break. And once they break, they don't come back. When you truly decide to change, when you truly decide to be the one who ends the cycle, it's like breaking through a wall that stood for generations. You become the proof that it's possible. You become the example, the living evidence that no matter how long something has been a part of your family's story, it doesn't have to define what comes next. You might feel alone on this journey, like no one understands why you're choosing to do things differently. And that's okay. Because sometimes being the one who changes everything means standing alone, at least at first. It means being willing to endure the discomfort, the uncertainty, and even the criticism from those who are still living in the old story. But if you can stay strong, if you can keep choosing to break free every single day, then you become the turning point. You become the reason why your family story changes, why it evolves, why it transforms into something better, brighter, more beautiful than ever before. So remember this, the power to break those generational chains is already within you. It's in your choices, your decisions, your actions. It doesn't matter what's come before. All that matters is what you choose to do with the life you've been given. Be the one who decides to set a new standard, who decides to break free, who decides that the old story is not the one you will pass on. One choice. That's all it takes. Discomfort is something most of us try to avoid at all costs. It's that feeling that makes you squirm, that pit in your stomach when you're stepping into something unknown, uncertain, or downright difficult. But here's the truth, no one likes to talk about discomfort is the doorway to change. If you want to create lasting transformation, whether it's in your own life or in your family's legacy, you have to learn to not just face discomfort, but to embrace it, to seek it out, to welcome it as a sign that you're on the right path. We've been conditioned to think that comfort equals happiness, but comfort is a trap. Comfort keeps you exactly where you are, surrounded by what's familiar, what's easy, what doesn't challenge you. The problem is, if you stay comfortable, you stay the same. And if you stay the same, nothing in your life or in your family story ever changes. You become stuck in the same cycles, the same routines, the same patterns that have been handed down year after year, generation after generation. True change doesn't happen when things are easy. It happens when you are willing to push through the pain, the struggle, the resistance that comes when you decide to do things differently. Because change is uncomfortable by its very nature. It forces you to step out of the old and into something new, something untested, something that might not work. And that's terrifying. But that's also where growth happens. That's where breakthroughs happen. That's where you start to see the life you've always dreamed of become a reality. Think about it, every great achievement in your life came because you were willing to go through some level of discomfort. Whether it was learning a new skill, pursuing a new career, or making a tough decision that others were too afraid to make, you had to face discomfort. And yet when you look back on those moments, they are often the times when you felt most alive, most fulfilled, most proud of yourself. Why? Because discomfort is not the enemy, it's the signal that you're growing, evolving, becoming more than you were before. When you decide to embrace discomfort, something incredible starts to happen. You stop seeing it as something to avoid and start seeing it as the price of admission for a better life. You begin to realize that everything you've ever wanted is just on the other side of that feeling. The stronger the discomfort, the greater the potential for transformation. It's like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it gets. The more you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, the more resilient, more capable, more unstoppable you become. But let's not sugarcoat it, this is not easy. Embracing discomfort means being willing to face your fears head on, to step into situations where you don't have all the answers, where you might fail, where others might criticize or judge you. It means letting go of the need for approval, letting go of the need to control everything, letting go of the idea that you can create a new life while staying in the comfort zone of the old one. There will be moments when it feels overwhelming, when you want to turn back, when everything in you screams to retreat to what's safe, to what's known. But those are the moments that matter most. Those are the moments where you have to remind yourself why you're doing this. You're not just embracing discomfort for the sake of it. You're doing it because you want something more for yourself, for your family, for the generations that will follow in your footsteps. You see, when you choose comfort, you choose stagnation, you choose to remain stuck in the same story, the same patterns, the same limitations that have held you and your family back. But when you embrace discomfort, when you lean into the challenge, when you decide that you'd rather face temporary pain for permanent gain, that's when you break free. That's when you set a new precedent, a new standard, a new way of living that others will follow. There's a saying that goes, a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. The storms, the turbulence, the discomfort, they are what make you strong. They are what force you to dig deep, to discover reserves of strength, courage, and resilience you didn't know you had. Because if you can get comfortable with being uncomfortable, if you can make discomfort your ally instead of your enemy, there is no limit to what you can achieve. The truth is, discomfort is the birthplace of change. It's the forge that tempers steel, that makes you unbreakable. So instead of running from it, lean into it. When you feel that knot in your stomach, when your heart races, when your mind tries to convince you to turn back, take a deep breath and move forward. Because on the other side of that discomfort is the life you've been waiting for, the life you deserve, the life you were born to live. And remember this every time you choose discomfort. Every time you push through, you are not just changing yourself, you are changing the story for your family. You are becoming the example, the proof, the inspiration for those who come after you. You are showing them that it's okay to take risks, to dream bigger, to strive for more. You are showing them that discomfort is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced because it's the path to freedom, to fulfillment, to true, lasting change. So, embrace discomfort. Seek it out. Welcome it into your life as a sign that you're on the right track. Because when you do, you're no longer just changing your own story, you're changing the story of everyone who looks up to you, everyone who's counting on you to show them what's possible. And that, my friend, is a legacy worth fighting for. The stories we tell ourselves are powerful. They shape how we see the world, how we see ourselves, and ultimately what we believe is possible. These stories are not just words, they are deeply ingrained beliefs that have the power to dictate the course of our lives. For many of us, these stories aren't even ours to begin with. They were handed down to us by our parents, our grandparents, and those who came before them. They are the stories of what our families believe to be true about money, love, success, failure, and what it means to be happy. These stories are like the roots of a great tree. They are often hidden beneath the surface, but they anchor everything we do. The problem is that many of these stories were born out of pain, out of hardship, out of a time when the world was different. They were survival stories, crafted in the face of adversity. But over time, they became the lens through which your family sees the world, the narrative that gets repeated so often that it feels like an absolute truth. You may have grown up hearing things like people like us don't get rich, or you have to work twice as hard just to get by. Maybe the story was about always being the one who sacrifices, the one who gives and gives until there's nothing left. Or perhaps it was a story of scarcity, that there's never enough, so you have to hold on to whatever little you have. These stories don't just live in your mind, they live in your heart, your habits, your daily choices. They shape what you think you deserve, what you think is possible, and whether you're willing to take risks or play it safe. But here's the truth, these stories are just that, stories. They are not facts, they are not laws of nature. They are interpretations of experiences that were passed down through generations, often without anyone stopping to ask, is this really true? And if you're willing to challenge these stories, to dig deep and question their validity, you can change everything. Because when you change the story, you change the belief system that guides your life. Imagine for a moment that your family's story is a script in a play. If you keep following that script word for word, you'll end up living the same scenes, the same plot twists, the same outcomes that your ancestors did. But what if you could rewrite that script? What if you could look at the narrative and decide that it no longer serves you? What if you could change the story to reflect not where you've been, but where you want to go? The first step in changing the story is becoming aware of it. You have to identify the beliefs that have been running your life on autopilot, often without you even realizing it. These beliefs might sound like, I'm not good enough, success is for other people, not for me. Or I'll never break out of this cycle. But here's the thing, these beliefs are not facts, they are simply interpretations that have been reinforced over time. And if you can identify them, you can start to dismantle them. But awareness alone is not enough. You have to go further. You have to take ownership of the narrative. This means deciding that you are no longer going to let an old story control your destiny. It means deciding that you will no longer be a prisoner of beliefs that were never yours to begin with. It's about stepping up and saying, this story ends here with me. It's about choosing to write a new story that aligns with who you are and who you want to become. To change the story, you have to change the language you use with yourself and with those around you. Words are powerful. They are the building blocks of belief. When you start speaking a new story, when you start affirming what's possible rather than focusing on what's wrong, you begin to shift your entire belief system. It's like planting new seeds in a garden that's been neglected for years. At first, it may feel strange. The old weeds of doubt and fear will still try to take root, but if you keep nurturing those new seeds, if you keep telling yourself a story of possibility, abundance, and strength, you will start to see a transformation. The real challenge, though, comes in living that new story. Because it's one thing to say, I believe I can be successful, but it's another to act on that belief when the world tests you. It's in those moments of doubt, when the old story tries to pull you back, that you have to stand firm in your new beliefs. You have to live as if the new story is already true, even before you see the evidence. Because when you do, you start to create that evidence. You start to attract new opportunities, new people, and new experiences that align with the story you're telling. When you change the story, you're not just changing your own life. You're changing the entire narrative for your family, for your children, and for everyone who looks to you as an example. You are breaking free from the chains of the past and creating a new legacy. You are teaching those around you that it's possible to rise above what's been handed down, that it's possible to create a new reality based on a new set of beliefs. And that is powerful. Because the moment you change the story, you change the future. You change what's possible, not just for yourself, but for everyone who comes after you. You become the one who shows that it's possible to break free from the past, to redefine what's possible, and to live a life that's not limited by old beliefs. So decide right now to change the story. Decide to challenge the beliefs that have held you back, to rewrite the script, to live a new narrative that's based on possibility, not limitation. Because the story you choose to tell yourself today will become the reality you live tomorrow. And when you change the story, you change everything. It's easy to look at people who've broken through barriers and think they're the exception. We tell ourselves that they had something special, something we don't have: more talent, better connections, luck that we'll never find. We label them as exceptions so that we can justify why it hasn't happened for us. But here's the thing: if you want to create real change in your life, in your family, and in the world, you cannot aim to be the exception. You must become the example. Being the exception is about separating yourself from others, about standing out in a way that makes people think, well, that could never be me. It's like being a lone star in the night sky, brilliant, yes, but isolated. And while there's nothing wrong with shining brightly, there's something much more powerful you can do. You can become the example. The proof that what seems impossible is actually achievable. When you decide to be the example, you change the conversation entirely. Instead of setting yourself apart, you become a source of inspiration, a model for others to follow. You show those around you, especially those who may feel stuck in their circumstances, that they can break free too. You demonstrate that change isn't reserved for the chosen few. It's available to anyone willing to do the work, to make the tough decisions, to take uncomfortable actions. You become a beacon, not by being different from everyone else, but by showing them what's possible for themselves. Being the example means living your life in a way that reflects your highest standards, even when no one is watching. It means making the hard choices not because they're easy or because they bring immediate rewards, but because they align with your vision of what's possible. When you are the example, you don't cut corners, you don't take shortcuts, and you don't let the fear of judgment hold you back. You live in alignment with your values, your dreams, your purpose, and that consistency is what sets you apart, not as someone who is exceptional, but as someone who is authentic. The truth is, people are always watching, whether you realize it or not. Your children, your siblings, your friends, your coworkers, they're all observing how you handle challenges, how you deal with setbacks, how you treat others, and how you push forward when things get tough. They may never say it out loud, but they're learning from you. And if you choose to be the example, you're showing them what's possible, not through words, but through your actions. You see, the world doesn't need more exceptions, it needs more examples. It needs people who are willing to rise up, to do the hard things, to face the discomfort, and to show others that there is another way. Being the example is about embodying the change you want to see. It's about making decisions that align with the life you want to live, even if it's difficult, even if it's unpopular, even if it means going against the grain of what everyone else is doing. But let's be real, it's not easy to be the example. It requires you to go first, to take risks, to step out into the unknown while others stay comfortable in the familiar. It means choosing to be disciplined when everyone else is taking it easy, choosing to be kind when it would be easier to be indifferent, choosing to keep moving forward, even when it feels like the whole world is pushing against you. Being the example is about committing to your highest potential, not just when it's convenient, but every single day. When you are the example, you give others permission to step up, to dream bigger, to break through their own limitations. Your life becomes a testament to what's possible, not because you had it easy, not because everything fell into place, but because you chose to take a stand for what you believed in. You chose to take action even when you were scared, even when you were unsure, even when everyone around you told you it couldn't be done. The beauty of being the example is that it creates a ripple effect. Your actions inspire others to take their own steps toward change. Your courage gives them the courage to try. Your discipline shows them that it's possible to stay the course. And that ripple doesn't just stop with the people you know. It extends outward, touching lives you may never even meet. The impact of your example goes far beyond what you can see. It's a legacy that lasts. So, if you want to change your family's story, if you want to change your own life, don't aim to be the exception. Don't wait for a stroke of luck or a miraculous breakthrough that sets you apart from everyone else. Instead, be the example that others can look to. Be the person who shows that it's possible to rise above circumstances, to break through barriers, to transform limitations into strengths. Being the example means taking full responsibility for your life, owning your choices, and recognizing that you have the power to influence not just your own future, but the future of those who look up to you. It's about showing up day in and day out with integrity, with determination, and with a commitment to the vision you have for your life. It's about being the person who says, I will do what it takes, not just for me, but for those who are watching, for those who are counting on me to show them a better way. In the end, being the example is not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about showing that even though you stumble, even though you face setbacks, you keep moving forward. You keep growing, you keep learning, you keep pushing yourself to be better, not just for yourself, but for everyone who's watching. When you choose to be the example, you shift the entire narrative. You transform from someone who merely talks about change to someone who lives it. And in doing so, you give others the courage to believe that they too can change their lives. You inspire them to break free from their own limitations, to rise above their own fears, and to pursue a life that's not defined by their past, but by the limitless possibilities of their future. So choose to be the example. Choose to be the light that others can follow. Because when you do, you're not just changing your own story, you're rewriting the story for everyone who follows in your footsteps. And that's how real change happens. That's how legacies are born. Now, as we stand at the edge of everything we've talked about today, I want you to take a deep breath and let it all sink in. We've journeyed through what it means to break free from the past, to change the story, to break generational chains, to embrace discomfort, and to be the example, not the exception. You've seen how each of these elements isn't just about shifting your mindset or achieving personal success. It's about transforming the legacy you leave behind. It's about making a choice, right here, right now, to be the one who changes the course of your family's story. This journey won't be easy. It's going to require you to dig deep, to face the fears that have held you back, and to make uncomfortable choices when everything inside you wants to retreat to the familiar. But remember, comfort is the enemy of growth. If you want to change what's possible for yourself, for your family, for everyone who looks to you as a source of hope, you have to be willing to embrace the discomfort, to stand firm in your vision, even when it feels like everything is against you. Understand this: you are not defined by your past. You are not defined by the old stories you were told or the limiting beliefs that have been passed down through generations. You are defined by the standards you set for yourself today, by the courage you have to rewrite the narrative, by your willingness to be the change maker. You have the power right now to break free from whatever has held you back and to set a new course for your life and for the lives of those who will follow. The world doesn't need more exceptions. It needs examples living proof that transformation is possible, that change is within reach, that a new story can be written by anyone willing to put in the work. That is your calling, your mission, your responsibility. It's not just about you. It's about everyone who will see your journey and find the strength to change their own. So go out there and be the one who makes the difference. Be the one who breaks the chains, who sets the new standard, who creates a legacy of hope, strength, and possibility. Be the example, not the exception. Because when you choose to change your story, you change not just your life, but the lives of everyone who is watching, everyone who needs to believe that change is possible for them too. That is your power. That is your gift. That is your legacy. Now go out there and live it.